Hello, hello. Well, it is 10 o'clock. We have got a quorum. So Ty, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good morning and welcome to another exciting Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee meeting. So I'm excited because we have some good updates for today, and I want to share with you guys what happened, and I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Consider it done.
So, Abby,
Yes. Housekeeping.
do we want to go over any public comment or anything of that nature?
Well, the next item is just a really quick housekeeping. We don't have any so far public comments on non-agenda items. We can get to that in a second though. And then it looks like the bulk of the comments are on agenda item 6. But I can roll into housekeeping if you like.
Sounds good. Let's do that.
Okay. So just a few items that I know you are familiar with at this point, but we'll go over them really quickly. So for those in the conference room, just be aware the mic is here. It's sensitive, so just be aware of side conversations. For those of you online, we do ask that committee members have their cameras on. If you want to stay muted unless you are speaking, that can help keep unintended noises down. We ask that guests keep camera and mics muted and cameras off, just so we can see all the committee members up front and center. And then if you wish to speak, you can shout out at any time, raise your hand through Teams, unmute, and we're good to go. So that's all I have.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. And so we don't have any public comment. Let's see here. Do we want to go over staff update on legislative session?
Yeah, I think we've got to look at the minutes. That's agenda item 3, which is discussion and possible action in the January meeting minutes.
Got it. All right. So let's see here. Can you go over those, Amber?
Well, and they are posted on the website. So unless there's any changes, then they would just be approved unless anyone has any changes.
Okay, perfect. Well, do we just need to say they're approved, essentially?
Unless anyone has any changes.
No?
You need a motion in order to do that or just consent?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it seems like we're good on that front then.
Perfect. Sounds good. So we skip over public comments since we don't have anything there.
And we can ask just really quick, a few guests in the room, if anyone has any public comments on non-agenda items. Okay, all right, just wanted to be sure.
Perfect. Okay, so next would be the legislative session update.
That's me. So hi everyone, Summer Mandel. So I wanted to update you on our bigger bill for TREC, which is our housekeeping bill. It's been heard in the Senate, and today it's going to be heard in the House. And so we're actually waiting to go to that committee meeting. It's going to start when the full House adjourns today. So this, as a reminder, this is going to include some initiatives that came out of this committee. So requiring broker responsibility course at broker's license application and renewal. This is regardless of whether you intend to sponsor any agents. This bill also allows TREC to adjust sales agent qualifying education requirements by rule instead of statute, so that's more flexibility. This also includes an initial sales agent license application. Provide notice of broker associate complaint to the brokerage, and indicate brokerage affiliation on our website, so that's for broker associates who they associate with. And also obtain license holders' contact information for display. So this is addressing that SB 510 from last session, where we had to take down all of that contact information because we don't discern whether it's personal or business. So this will just give us that authority to collect the kind that we need for display. So it's exciting, it's moving forward, and that's pretty much what I want to update you guys on. If you have any questions about this or any other bills, I'm happy to talk about that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Summer. That
Thank you.
sounds good. Sounds like we're moving along, and I'm excited. I hope everything gets approved and done. That would be nice.
Yeah, we're on our way.
Let's see here. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's go on to the next one here. All right. Let's talk about discussion and possible action regarding broker license education and experience requirements. So this is good news. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, and I guess what I can do is kind of talk about what happened at the TREC meeting, or do we want to go over this slide first?
Well, it's up to you. We have a sort of an introductory presentation we thought we could provide just to kind of give background and provide a brief update of where the commission ended up at workshop, and then really turn it over to you, if that sounds okay.
That sounds wonderful.
Okay, great. So this presentation, we just kind of wanted just to have, to lay everything out for you all. Sometimes it's helpful to have visual, because it's really complicated, as we all know. So I wanted to kind of lay out the background, what we currently require, what your recommendations ultimately were, and then what the commission's feedback was at the workshop in February. So, and I know that many of you have watched that recording, and so you're aware of that conversation, but just to kind of give a high level overview. So currently, the initial broker license requirements are on the screen here. There are two tiers or two tracks, if you will. There's an education requirement and an experience requirement for an initial broker's license. The education requirement is 270 hours of qualifying real estate courses plus 630 hours of real estate related education. And as we all know, that tends to be the focus of a lot of our conversations historically, is that 630 hours. Additionally, credit may be given for a bachelor's degree or certain courses in specific areas for that 630 hours of real estate related education. So that's the education side. And of course, there's also the experience side, which the current requirement is to have at least 4 years of active experience during the preceding 5 years, totaling 360 experience points. So that's the current requirement. We wanted to break down the credit a little bit more because, as you all know, this was a topic during the workshop, these specific requirements. So the credit can be broken down kind of in a couple different options. So option one, a bachelor's degree in any area provides credit for the 630 hours of real estate related education. So a bachelor's degree in anything, you get that credit automatically. The second option is category specific courses. So you can get credit for up to 630 hours of real estate related education based on qualifying real estate courses that you've taken, commission approved CE courses that you've taken, or college courses in accounting, advertising, architecture, business or management, construction, finance, investment, law, marketing, or real estate. Those are the specific categories that we have outlined, that the agency, the commission has outlined in rule. So that's how the credit currently works. And we can reference this slide as we need to during our discussions. So the current BRAC recommendation that was presented to the commission at their February workshop was no change to the education requirements, but there were 3 changes to the current experience requirements. And so, as you all know, one of the recommendations was to allow for the substitution of experience for up to 300 hours of that 630-hour requirement for real estate related education. The calculation we came up with was 2 additional experience points equals 1 hour of real estate related education. There were some other recommendations made as well to change the property management experience calculation to a per property per year basis instead of just per property. And then the third category of recommendation was to modify the brokerage management / delegated supervisor calculation to a points per transaction model. So those were the three things that were brought forward to the workshop, or to the commission at their workshop. This again is just kind of an outline of how that calculation based on the points that we put forward would work for that substitute requirement. And so this was just an example of what that practically looked like. The commission saw this as well. And then we'll get to the feedback. So the commission, I think, was generally supportive of the alternate path, that's what we've been calling it, of substituting that experience for education. But they had two comments that they wanted to give back to you. And so first was to consider limiting the college degree and college course credit to no more than 300 hours. And then separately, they wanted you to consider increasing the experience point as a separate recommendation, or apart from the first recommendation. So that brings us to today, and really, want to turn it back over to you to begin those conversations. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Perfect. Anyone have questions on this? I think it's pretty straightforward. We sat in the room and talked through this quite a bit. Did anyone not watch the actual workshop video? So if we all saw it, I feel like we're pretty much all on the same page on what they were looking for. Any thoughts or comments on this suggestion or idea? We're at 10:47 right now, so we should be good to go. All right, let's kind of rehash since we all last joined the last meeting. We had a little technical difficulty, and we're all back on now. So welcome to another edition of the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee meeting. We are back, and we are ready to start this thing out. We're just talking about proposed changes to the broker's license, and I believe we just got a good recap of what was discussed in the workshop. After discussing what was in the workshop, we were moving on to, I guess, look at the comments that were sent in about agenda item number 6. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. So if everyone would like to, you can pop open the agenda and look at the meeting notes and things. And we've gotten a couple of comments. One from somebody, the first comment was from someone named Vic, and we appreciate Vic's comments here. It looks like this person was from Colorado and has recently moved to Texas.
Mr.
Do I know?
is here.
Do what?
Mr. Graham is here.
Yes,
Oh, very nice.
he's here.
Would you like to comment?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add to that email is that based on the point system, I know there's 360 points required. With my experience that I've documented and already sent into Trek, I'm at almost 2,200 points on that scale, but I'm unable to get a broker license in Texas, even with 10 years experience, all those points, and I've already done the 270 hours required education. So right now I'm looking at becoming a salesperson again, just because I don't have a bachelor's degree. So, this meeting is fantastic for me. I love to see the direction that the commission is going. I would love to see that point system given a little bit more weight as opposed to the educational requirement. And just, make it provable that you are who you say you are. And if you can prove that you have the transactional history and the experience, go ahead and let a guy like me test for your broker license. So that's all I would add to that email.
Thank you for your comment, and I appreciate your support, and I appreciate your thought process on what you're thinking here as far as the weight on experience versus education. I think that's one reason we're looking at this pathway to make this recommendation, because we believe that both are important. But I think we found over our discussions that, you learn more by doing, and I think that's why we have made this a top agenda item, and hopefully we get something done on it today.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so much.
Texas might be missing out on a lot of very good brokers coming to Texas just for this reason. And
Ty,
just one, I'm sure there's.
Yes, sir.
Ty, as some background, I just want to make it clear. I believe Colorado has broker only. There's not agent and broker. Everyone becomes a broker.
Everyone is licensed at the broker level, but to become you're considered an associate broker when you get your license. And then to become a broker, there's more education and also a point system, transactional point system as well.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming into the meeting today as well.
Yeah, I'm unable to work, so I'm kind of unemployed right now. Plenty of time.
And Ty, we have another comment from someone in the room here as well. Hi, my name's Judy Kurtz, and I think I sent in some comments, but I don't know if they're on there or not, but I've actually had an agent in Texas since 1996. And I'm here for the same reason, because I don't have a bachelor's degree, but I have a ton of experience in not only transactions, but also property management over these almost 30 years, or I guess it is over 30 years that I've been an agent. And even just in the last 4 years, if you look at that point system that you guys are talking about, I have 3,600 that I totaled up, and that's, just through just the first part of this year. And this month alone, I've got 3 more sales transactions. So there's another 300 points. So I just wanted to, bring that up, because I've been trying to get my broker's license for the last couple of years, but I'm so busy doing transactions that to take all those hours, it's a difficult balancing act when I have so much more experience in this business than most people that are brokers. Like even my own broker is only been in the business maybe 7 years. And I feel like I have so much more experience than they do run a brokerage firm. So anyways, thank you for listening to me. That was the whole point of me coming up here today from Dallas or down here.
Oh, we really appreciate you coming all the way up from Dallas to attend the meeting and make your comment. It means a lot to us, and we appreciate the feedback. And this is exactly what we're looking at. Experience points, experience out in the real world, and then guiding others on how to do the business and how to do it right with integrity and knowledge. So we got to watch out for the Texas consumer, and it sounds like you're doing a good job at that. So let's see what we can do today for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have some other comments here. It says, coming from a small rural market, this person was talking about they had to earn close to 300 hours to get their broker's license. They only had a few college classes, and I think the upshot of this comment is that they are just talking about the number of hours, and the class, it took them a while to get things done and to obtain their license. I don't see any reason to relax the requirements. They want to make sure that we don't lower the requirements. It looks like that sounds good. Those probably shouldn't be brokers. They just want to keep the standards high. The next one, it says, I'm writing to suggest some agents should be considered to become licensed as a broker if they do not have a bachelor's degree. Could be considered to become licensed brokers if they do not have a bachelor's degree. Partial. Okay, sounds good. Just another comment on what we're looking at doing there. Another one. Thank you so much for working on a solution with the optional additional experience point solution. That sounds great. Would BRAC consider taking this perspective years? Thank you for your comment here. That's good news. Okay. Any questions or comments on these comments from any of our members? Larry, Mike?
I wanted to just add, this is Rena, I'm in the room.
Hey.
I wanted to reiterate the fact that why we're doing this is because building a real estate business and doing it well is based on building your knowledge base with every transaction you close. And that builds on itself, and every situation's unique. And because they're so unique and it's such a wide variety of education you get with every transaction you close, that's why we're doing this. It's so important because we build through experience. And I think what we're doing is fabulous here.
Rena, I'm sorry, I got kicked off the meeting. I'm gonna ascertain that you were.
Yeah, you build your experience, in real estate through every transaction because every situation is so unique. Even being 25, 26 years in the industry, we still learn something new with every transaction we close.
Mhm.
You could be 1 year into it or 26 years into it, and then all you need is a little itty bitty form change, and that opens a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This
Marvin,
is
you have your hand
Teams
raised.
for the internet, but it seems like it's Teams if Kai keeps getting kicked off.
Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
Mr.
Mark?
Chairman.
You had a comment?
Yes, so just a question for Abby. The commission's recommend, I have a couple questions and then maybe some
I'm gonna
comments.
try to.
Is that working? Can you guys hear us?
It's kind of low.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear us, but our internet or something has gone down here. So we are not able to see the screen right now.
Oh my goodness. Can you hear us?
Okay, now we can hear on my computer.
Oh, we got you, Abby. We're here.
Okay. Sorry about that. So the call has dropped from in the meeting room. So we're gonna try to log back in here from the meeting, but we can at least hear you from my computer. So
Perfect. I think, should we just wait and see if we can get everyone to rejoin?
I'm just gonna do this really quickly, but we can hear you. So everyone in the room can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Marvin, would you like to?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Abby, on the commission's recommendation, it is to limit the degree to credit of 300 hours toward the 630. There's also an increased experience points, and I attended the workshop. I also watched the video a couple weeks ago, but can you refresh our memory on the increase of experience points that the commission is addressing?
Yeah, so that was a kind of a separate point, and I hope you all can hear us okay. We're back on the
Yes.
service. Okay.
Yes.
We got you.
Okay, perfect. So that was a separate point that was made, or a separate feedback that was provided. And there was some back and forth on that. Initially, there was some comments about by the commissioners about, doubling potentially. Ultimately, the recommendation that was made, however, is to look at increasing the experience points that are currently required. and they did stress that that is, and Commissioner Lerner can also speak to this, I know as well, but they did stress that this would be separate and apart from, the things that you're considering for the experience or the alternate path and, looking at that credit options. But that would be instructive, because if you increase experience, then you may need to also look at this alternate path and the points that you've assigned for that, as well as the credit that you give for a bachelor's degree or college courses as well. So it was a separate consideration or a separate feedback provided, but it all kind of works together.
Okay, so I have some thoughts and questions. So initially, our thought was we would accelerate or elevate so we have two groups of people. We have people with bachelor's degrees and people who don't have bachelor's degrees. Initially, our thought in this group was to elevate, escalate, accelerate, give the people who do not have bachelor's degrees an opportunity through experience to basically level up to those who had bachelor's degrees. If we limit the degree credit to only 300 hours versus 630, I'm curious, are we creating an unintended consequence of making it more difficult for people who hold bachelor's degrees to get the broker's license? And in fact, are we then raising the barrier of entry in an unintended consequence there?
Marvin, this was definitely something that was talked about. I think the idea was to equalize. It's not to increase a barrier, but it's to equalize what the experience points offer with the 300 hours and what the college credit would offer at 300 hours, and equalize it so it's a level playing field. And I think that's what the commissioners have basically
Gotcha. Okay, I can see that.
And then the reason, and I'll address the experience points issue or topic. Experience points, looking at the increase of experience points would be totally separate from this, because what we want to do is we want to be able to present this, and in a separate topic, we want to be able to present experience points. That way, this is one package, and then the experience points is a different package.
Okay.
So
this is in the commission's recommendation, it would be that everybody could get 300 hours of credit either through bachelor's degree or through experience, and that everybody has to take 330 hours of education. Is that correct?
Okay, well, so this is where it gets a little interesting, Marvin. Is it,
okay,
let's just say you've got your master's degree, a bachelor's degree, or what have you, and you have experience as well. That's where you can level up. You'll knock out 600 hours right there. You see what I mean?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if you've got the experience and you've got the college degree or the college credits that will apply, then you're good. And the good news is that we're still looking at allowing college credits that are related courses, and the degrees themselves, not eliminating it, but equalizing it and making it a level playing field.
Okay.
And that was the gist of the meeting.
What is the impact on staff time for processing with making that modification? And we go from how many days on average to process a broker's application to what would be your estimate?
This is Denise Sample, Director of Licensing, just for the record. So I want to make sure I'm understanding. The proposal would be that instead of reviewing a transcript, and if there's a degree that satisfies the 630 related hours, are we saying, and I may have misunderstood, so I just want to make sure, are we saying that the degree would no longer give you real estate related credit, or it would be fewer hours?
Fewer hours.
Good question. All it would do, it would be the exact same, just a reduction in the hours credited. That's it. And then the alternate path would allow you to get the other 300 hours if you wanted it, if you had that experience.
If we're just adjusting the number of hours that the degree that's been awarded satisfies for related credit, that won't necessarily impact the processing time. In previous discussions, it was if we were eliminating the degree and only looking for related courses on the transcript, that would possibly impact the processing times for the
Makes
broker. But if we're saying they get 300 hours instead of 630, that's
Okay.
the analysis of the transcript is still the same.
But there would be the additional analysis of like whatever was submitted, right?
Right. For the additional experience, that's going to be a change, and those who have it, their applications could take a little bit longer to process especially when it's a new requirement. And as we learn kind of how to review that and how to review an application with a new requirement added, but I don't think it would be anything that would be that impactful.
And before we move on to Mike, I know Mike's got a comment. I just don't want to lose my train of thought. As far as the experience points or the experience that you could use for the alternate path, where, when the commission, when staff came back and said, hey, let's just use the same form, let's use the same format, it keeps it more streamlined. So that way we're not having to create something new, reinvent the wheel. And we're leaving it the same. So it's a little bit of a less of a, I guess, a learning curve or a change than doing something new, like a new form or what have you, like we talked about before.
Yeah, Ty, that's right. The other consideration was that on the side of the applicant, having to get their sponsoring broker to certify and sign off on the different experience. They can have as many sponsored brokers as they might have had in the last 4 out of the 5 years. When we looked at it, it was easier. It seemed that it would be easier for the applicant to only have to submit one experience report. And then on the back end, staff would determine, here's where they've met the minimum. And now here's the additional experience, and do that calculation for them. That way we could also eliminate someone inadvertently listing experience on both forms, on the minimum experience report and claim that same experience for the additional. So that was just to recap that was another reason why going with one form kind of made a little more sense from a processing standpoint.
Yeah, and it just makes sense. Mike, did you have a comment, sir?
I did. I want to go back to just real quick to the gentleman from Colorado. We've got a lot of people coming to Texas, and is there a different requirement? Do we have a set of requirements for each state, or is everybody thrown into one big bucket and, like he's saying, almost having to start over because he's done all this work in Colorado? How much of that counts towards getting that broker's license in Texas, or does he have to start from scratch?
The same requirements apply across the board, regardless of where you're coming. However, there are allowances made in statute for, I believe, prior licensure or current licensure, and then also experience would come into play as well. I'm looking at Denise, though.
Yeah.
Correct me.
You're right. The experience doesn't have to be obtained while licensed in Texas, but the education requirements are so specific that's why Mr. Cram had to take the specific mandated qualifying coursework. And so then it's the additional related hours that are posing the challenge for those upgrading from a sales agent license in Texas and those coming out of state.
Okay, so the stuff he brought forth from his degree or work that he did before is still good. He just has to make sure that he takes the Texas specific courses to complete the remainder of it.
Well, not only that, but also the time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be both. So let's just say let me just put it this way in perspective. Say he moved from California or Colorado, what have you, moved here today. In 4 years, if he hit the experience points, then he applies for his broker's license. So either way, even if he had 50,000 transactions in a different state or a different area, it wouldn't apply unless he was already licensed here.
No, it's actually, the experience can be obtained in another state. It doesn't have to be.
But what I'm saying is, as long as he was in the last 4 or 5 years.
It still has to be recent, but it doesn't have to be experience obtained while licensed in Texas. He could use the experience obtained in another state.
Right. But what I'm saying is, in order for him to get his broker's license, though, he still has to be licensed here for 4 out of the last 5 years in order to even qualify.
No.
No?
The experience component, so the recency, that's the last 4 out of the 5 years, that can be obtained either while licensed in Texas, or you can use experience obtained in another state. The hurdle is generally the 630 related hours.
Okay, so what I'm trying to clarify though is that he moves here from Colorado today. He's got his experience points, and let's just say he knocks out already the 630 hours plus his, let's just say he gets his 900 hours today. Can he go get his broker's license today?
He would be at that point authorized to sit for the broker exam.
Okay, so even though he's never had a sales license here.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So there's really no hurdle here, Mike, is that what you're
Yeah,
trying?
that's the question I have, is how much of a hurdle. I mean, I know that this state is growing and we want the best people that we can get to come to this state. And I just wanted to make sure that the hurdle is not so high for somebody coming from someplace else that it holds down the whole industry.
Right, exactly. So I think that answers your question. In reality, it opens up the pathway for somebody who's a very experienced broker to come in and get their license
Fairly quickly, as long as they can do the required courses.
Yes, perfect. Brian,
Okay.
you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, well, my question was answered. I wanted to make sure that experience gained in other states also applied. I think the proposal that's out there it does exactly what you said, Ty, and that is level the playing field. Whether you're from another state or you're coming up in Texas, it's the same requirement for everybody. It's 900 hours of education and it's 360 experience points recency in the last 4 of the 5 years. However, the proposal that we're making is to exchange additional experience points that you've earned over and above the minimum required, exchanging those for up to 300 hours of the 900 that's currently required. And I think I think that solution is appropriate, and I think the commission is on board with that. The thing that's on the table today is currently we credit up to 630 hours for a bachelor's degree of any type. And the commission's coming back and recommending to us that we cap that at 300. That would require everybody to have still the 900 points. You could get 300 for your bachelor's degree. You're going to need 600 additional hours of education that are real estate related. But whether you have a bachelor's degree or not have a bachelor's degree, you could exchange additional experience for up to 300 hours of education. And I think that's a reasonable and prudent recommendation back from the commission. It's still a high bar. You still got to get a lot of education, and you've still got to demonstrate experience as well, and recent experience. So I'm on board with moving forward with that recommendation. We've hashed it out quite a little bit in previous meetings, going back and forth on that 630-hour credit for a bachelor's degree, and while those who don't have a bachelor's degree had to get 900 hours of education. And so I think this solution and recommendation is prudent. And like I said, I'd be on board with moving forward with that.
Any other comments on this before we look at moving forward like Brian is proposing?
This is Ashley. It seems to me that it is punitive to somebody that does have college degree, and we're taking away the benefit and the credit of their education.
But not all of it, Ashley. Right.
I understand.
And
If you look at the number of hours that somebody invests in order to obtain a college degree, it's much more significant than even the 630 hours, I believe, whenever you look at the time invested in the classes and studying. And there's a difference, in my opinion, in the rigor between what most people experience in college and what you experience in a real estate education class. And that, by the way, that's unfortunate that there's a difference in rigor, but I believe that that is factual.
And I think, Ashley, your comments in January were wise. I think a lot of your comments were that the core courses in any degree are pertinent to real estate related, just like the outline that Abby presented earlier: marketing and finance and law, business, etc. Your core courses in your bachelor's degree probably all fall within those categories. However, the specifics, and I think what I was hearing while I was listening to the commission meeting, they were specifically pointing out certain types of degrees that maybe that additional study had nothing to do with real estate. Maybe it's early elementary education or something like that. So I thought their comments were wise, and certainly comments that we've had in our room as well.
Okay.
I also would like to comment as far as the playing field goes, and that playing field needs to be equal for all players. The benefit of having a college degree is they're going to get 300 hours. Right now they get more, but getting 300 hours in that experience, what we're looking out for is not truly for the agent or the broker. We're looking out for the Texas consumer, and that's our number one job. Our number one job is to look out for the consumer, and a consumer benefits from someone that has done and completed more transactions. And in that related field, just like anything else in life, the more you've done of it, the more you're going to learn from it. And the comment was made earlier, every transaction you learn something from. I would attest to that day in and day out, especially being a managing broker. I learn new things every single day. And I think, in my opinion, I think that this is an equalizer. I don't think it's a hindrance. I think it creates more seasoned, more solid, and more educated, more experienced brokers for our consumers in the state of Texas.
And
But
Ty,
that's
we have a comment from a member of the public here.
absolutely.
Hello, my name's Leslie Charles. I'm a Texas real estate broker and a Texas real estate instructor with Champions. And I was on the TREC site last night and looking through some of the universities here in Texas. And I'm wondering, can we have a two-track process for brokerage, whether it's going on the experience side or the bachelor's side? Because you've got Texas A&M, San Jacinto College in El Paso, Texas Tech University that are focusing on specific real estate degrees. Could it be a two-tier track, like you fall into this category and this is what you can do, and you fall into this category, and these are your two options to get your Texas broker's license?
You know, I love that thought process, and I think that's a really good comment. I would say that the biggest hurdle that we run into is that the comment that was made earlier is keeping it equalized for all. And as much as I believe a real estate education in a college really does matter the most, especially when you're focused in on your craft, I think it makes the most sense. I think the issue is it keeping it equal amongst all 4 college degrees. If we're going to give a college degree credit, then we give a college degree credit of X amount of hours. But I think that was the point of what the commissioners were making as well. They really want it to be equalized.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, we've got another member of the public here.
Hi, this is Judy Kurtz again, and this may be on the website, but may not, I just couldn't find it. But so I've decided to get my CCIM designation. So I'm just curious as to how those hours relate to all of this. Because that's pretty intensive as far as, especially since I specialize in commercial real estate. And I'm just curious as to how I get credited for those hours towards a broker's license.
Are they, I know this is a loaded question, so I'm asking this on purpose. Are they continuing education hours as far as being registered with TREC, or are they just extra curriculum that do not have that affiliation for continuing education?
They're actually both. One is to obtain a designation for CCIM, but you can also get continuing education credits for it.
So I know there does allow for some credit for CE courses, but I know Jen is looking.
Double
As we
checking,
speak.
they aren't approved, you're right, they are approved as a continuing education provider. I don't know if all of the courses that they offer for the designation are approved, but there is, you said you were looking on the website, there's a list of the approved courses.
So I just recently took one last week and I did get CE credit for it.
Okay.
So, but I just didn't know if that also applied with the whole broker designation hours.
For the education hours,
Yes.
it would.
Okay.
Any approved continuing education.
Okay.
Those would count as real estate related
Yes.
Okay.
towards the 630.
Thank you.
Good question. That's a great designation, by the way. Good luck on that one. That's good stuff.
It's really good education. Really enjoyed it.
Any other comments?
It's an expensive education.
Yes. Good point, Larry. Good point. Any other comments? Mike, would you like to circle back on any of this? Marvin? Any thoughts on the on equalizing it or keeping it the same?
I just think it's important that we recognize the different paths, the different interests, the different concerns, because we want to make sure that we're addressing the public in the best way possible with the best candidates for broker possible. And I think the solution we came up with is a very it's equalizing is the best way to say it, because it's not I don't think it takes away from anything else. It's just an additional avenue that we're offering. Right. So.
Right. It's just it's an unintended fork in the road, but a positive way that gets you to the same ending. And I think it's pretty neat. All right. So I don't know, Vanessa, are we allowed to take questions? Somebody raised their hand on the screen. Logan did. Are we allowed to take his question or comment?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Logan Ford, you raised your hand a moment ago. Did you have a comment you would like to make on this?
Yes, thank you. I know I have a male's name, but I'm a she. Anyway, thank you for taking that. My name is Logan. I've been in real estate for 17 years now. I have a transaction coordinating business, and so I deal with hundreds of realtors and a lot of brokers. I did not go to college, so I'm in the process of taking all the education requirements right now. I can say, just dealing with a lot of brokerages, whenever I run into brokers who don't quite have the experience, they got their license because they have a degree. Usually whenever I ask them about how they got their license, they said, oh yeah, I had a degree, so I just took the test. But they are not well educated and they make a lot of mistakes a lot. So I agree with reducing from getting the full education requirements covered. I fully agree with reducing it to 300, just from experience of dealing with brokers like that often. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comment. We really appreciate you, Logan. Thank you for being a part of the process. Now, Mike, now you've got a good comment. Let's hear it, sir.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh,
Mike.
no, you're muted.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank it. No.
I will absolutely support the last speaker. I think some of y'all know I got my license in 80, and I handed them my UT business management transcript, and they said, you can sit for the broker's test. I didn't know squat about real estate, but I held a broker's license. So I am fully, and I think I've said this in every meeting, I am fully supportive of more experience. And I don't want to discount your education, but I think that boots on the ground adds a whole lot more than sitting in a class. And I've sat there for 4.5 years in a room too. But I just think that I fully support the experience part more so than I do the degree part. That's it.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Any other comments before we make let's go on to the next piece. Go ahead.
Ty. So you said earlier, you said that you'd said the commission looked at increasing the number of points for experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of what their support was.
Yes. Now that would be a separate topic here.
Okay.
After we move forward on this.
Okay.
Or if we move forward, how about that? If we move forward, I'll change my word.
I had written that note down, so I thought, well, let me ask.
No, good comments there. Okay, I'm going to send it back over to Brian. Would you like to make a motion, Brian?
I thought you might do that to me. Abby, do you have the BRAC recommendation that we made in January? I think it was one of the first slides that you had.
I do, yes. Let me share. I'm going to do this a different way. Just in case, let me share the PowerPoint here.
We will just print it out and read it.
I know, that's the safest way. I'm not going to do the present in Teams, and I'm just going to do it this way. So here is the current recommendation. No change to current education requirements, or this rather was what was presented to the commission at the workshop in February. The first recommendation to experience, though, was to allow for substitution of experience up to 300 hours within 630. Number 2 was change property management experience calculation to per property per year. And then number 3 was modify brokerage management / delegated supervisor calculation to a points per transaction model.
Okay. Well, my motion would be to not change the current education requirements, maintain the 900 hours. However, limit the credit for a bachelor's degree to 300 hours of the 900 required, and then duplicate our exchange of experience points for up to 300 hours of the 630 additional real estate related education requirements. based on the same point exchange that we recommended in January, and then maintain the other two recommendations with regard to the supervising, delegated supervisors, and the property manager experience points.
Perfect.
So the only change really is changing the credit for bachelor's degree from 630 hours to 300 hours.
All right, so that's your motion. I will second your motion. Would we like to take a vote on it here? All in favor, since we're on Teams, do we want to put a thumbs up or raise your hand? Can somebody take a count here? It's hard for me to tell.
Well, you can raise your hand. That's pretty helpful.
We raising our hand on Teams?
Oh, and just 8. Okay, so we've got 8 out of 9.
8 out of 9. All right, motion passes. Let's give yourselves a pat on the back. Very nice job, everyone here. Congratulations. All right, next topic would be experience points on a separate item here. Commissioners are seeking to increase experience points, whether it be double the experience points or some modification to increase that experience point count to also improve the quality of the broker. Hopefully, that would be protecting the consumer. Any comments or thought processes on increasing experience points from where they are right now? And if you do have a thought process, what would that be?
Hi, it's Ashley. I have a question on that because I thought that Chairman Kestner had asked us to have 2 methods, one for more urban areas where there's a lot of transactions and one for rural areas. Leslie's shaking her head no, or Commissioner Lerner no.
Well, during the workshop, that was discussed as well. And the topic came up on increasing experience points. And the clarification came that I think everyone agreed that increasing experience points would make sense.
Okay. I think
Whether
there was I think that comment referenced like the rules apply statewide. And so to consider all areas of real estate practice, including, the difference between a rural and an urban, what types of transactions, different types of practices, et cetera, things like that. So that was a consideration that was mentioned.
Okay.
Ashley, thank you so much. Any other comments or thought processes on experience points? What do we think? Do we feel like we need to increase them? Do we feel like what are your thought processes on this? Do we feel like we need to do double, or we need to do a 50% increase, or do we need to do anything? This is my question.
I have a question, maybe appropriate for Chelsea, and that is the governor's letter about creating barriers to entry. Would this be considered that by raising the bar on minimum experience requirements?
Yes. Really would. Now that letter is from October of 2019, but I can tell you that it's still referenced by the governor's office. When we bounce ideas off of them, they said, well, where would this fall in? There's kind of 3 directives in that letter, one of which is to reduce barriers to entry, so I think this is going the opposite direction. It doesn't mean, I'll add,
I am certain that there has been a regulatory agency who has increased a barrier to entry between October of 2019 and April of 2025. But it just means that those types of changes are highly scrutinized by the governor's office. Is that fair?
Very fair.
As some background, we've been talking about this experience increase since I was ever on broker responsibility, which I believe was 2020 or 2019. And the recommendation at that time was to double, because if you look at our experience now, I think you have to have maybe 2 transactions, and we were just looking at making it 4 per year, I believe. I would have to look at the whole graph thing we've made, but if you look at the number of transactions, you have to have it very minimal.
And so
Yeah,
that
it's
was
something like 4 or 5 residential transactions per year in the previous 5 years, 4 out of the 5 years. So it's not much. It's not much.
there's the counter to that, which was the lowering of the education, in the thought that we could probably get the experience up by arguing that the education was going down, which is, it's fine that that's not the recommendation, but I think that was the talking point on how we're increasing experience, but it's actually opening doors, et cetera. I think to Commissioner Lerner's point, it's been, a 5-year discussion, and there's been a few iterations, and then I say 5-year discussion, but it's a discussion that's been happening since longer. Yeah, longer. And so it does seem like, the time is ripe for, once this group is ready, is for a recommendation and to see what that response would be, right? I mean, to Chelsea's point, has it happened? Has there been an agency that's increased something? Certainly. Have there been alternate paths that have been created? I know we did some, right, for inspectors. So, ultimately, whatever it is, maybe it's time to see what happens. Oh, come on.
Oh, no.
That was a brilliant
really
speech.
important.
It was.
That was nicely said, Vanessa. Now, let's talk about it. So, proposal double.
We're here, sorry. We got kicked off again.
I was just saying, maybe it's time to see what happens, right? Once you guys have settled on something, and we'll see what that scrutiny is, and we'll see what the response is. You gotta get commission buy-in first, but you guys are listening to those recommendations. That's it.
Exactly. No, thank you. And I think it was well said. We did hear you all the way through before it disconnected. So Vanessa,
Oh, okay.
it was very well said. I have to admit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very eloquent. So I think my thought process on this is, why not?
Did we lose them? Did we lose them?
No, we're
what?
still here. We'll
Oh,
rejoin.
okay. We
It's
can't
just
see
the
you.
video's
Okay.
gone.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
it's been around a lot here.
I would be all in favor of increasing the minimum experience points. I think what we have is very low. I think it's a very low bar, and we're not talking about entry into real estate. We're talking about becoming a sponsoring broker and sponsoring other agents, and I think raising the bar on the experience level for that license is, I think it's wise. I think we see comments all the time about, in fact, Logan just said it. We have brokers that have absolutely very, very little experience, and now they're sponsoring agents, and I think it's a disservice and a danger to a consumer.
Well said, Brian. Well said. Mike, I see you nodding your head. You're not nodding.
100% in agreement. I think he's right. Yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, we still have the 2 paths. You can do a little more education, or you can do a little more experience. And I think we need to keep it that way, because that gives us our double way to get there. But
Right.
I certainly don't like, I like what we just did and lowering the mandatory or almost mandatory college degree hours so that we can put in more experience and get, I think, develop better brokers.
Marvin, you got your hand raised.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. I think it's a benefit to the consumer to raise that experience level. And I think that experience level that we're discussing is very attainable. It's reasonable. It is not lofty. It is not going to be disqualifying to a majority of the people who are interested in moving to that level of sponsoring brokers. So I think it's a very reasonable request and reasonable experience level to ask for.
Perfect. Let's see here. Let me ask Marion. I want you to put your educator's hat on, your thought process here. I mean, how, in your eyes, what do you think?
Well, definitely the experience is going to truly show because there's so many different type of transactions. I'm amazed at how many brokers that are managing people that only want the hands-off approach. And I think by increasing that, it forces everybody to be on level playing fields with knowing what we're doing out in the field when it comes to transactions, when it comes to changes in the industry, and all of those things. So I definitely think we should at least attempt to increase it, to try to increase that bar of experience.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Good feedback. And I know you're out there in the field teaching people every single day, and I'm glad you're here.
Mr. Chairman.
Let's see. Ashley, would you like to make any comments on this one?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with increasing the the experience hours for sure.
Gotcha. Rena.
I'm in agreement as well.
Perfect. You know what? Let's just do this. Would there be anyone that would like to propose a motion to move forward on this? Maybe Marvin Jolly here?
Are you
He's
muted?
muted.
Marvin's muted. It's okay. I like
It wouldn't
that.
be a meeting. It wouldn't be a meeting without somebody being muted. And so just for clarification, the number of transactions over that period of time is that 20 that we're looking at? Is that the number?
Well, it depends on how you break it up, but if you want to look at it in terms of a regular residential transaction, it would be 12, and if you doubled it, it would be 24.
Okay. So is 24 the number that we want to, is that the consensus that we've discussed?
As far as the point count goes, yes.
Or do we just want to say doubling the number? Is that a more accurate way to approach this in the motion?
Doubling the point
I think
count.
you have to be careful to say residential.
Right.
Correct.
Well, I think we just need to say doubling the point count is what we needed to say.
Yeah, the minimum required points is 360, and you can earn those points by doing different types of transactions. In terms of residential transactions, it's 30 points apiece. I think commercial, I believe it's 50 points apiece, and it changes for farm and ranch leases and property management, et cetera. So I think just focusing on the total number of points required is the solution, and not changing any of the points awarded. By changing the total number of points, it would then require more activity, either more residential transactions or more commercial transactions or more leases, and therefore more experience gained.
Sure. Right. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we increase the number of points required to 720 points.
Yes, sir. I hear your motion. I will second your motion, sir. Should we vote on that? Raise your hand if you are in favor.
Eight.
Got it. So we are in favor and feeling pretty good about that. So I feel like we just got some stuff done here. Congratulations. All right.
And I'll just kind of give you next steps. So what we'll plan to do, since you've made those two motions, we will start working on draft rule language to bring back to this group for your next meeting. Assuming it looks okay, that can be formally recommended by this group for proposal at the commission meeting. There will be some layers up to that, but that would be the kind of the timing I think we're looking at draft rule language in July for possible proposal at the August meeting.
Gotcha. Okay. That sounds like a plan.
So Abby, this would not be presented to the commission at their next meeting?
Not at the next meeting. There's a couple reasons for that. One, I want you all to look at the rule language to make sure we've captured it correctly. And two, because of legislative changes that we anticipate, that same rule may be impacted in August anyway. So even if we proposed in May, we would likely have to withdraw and re-propose in August anyway, just due to some legislation. So for that reason, I think looking at the language in July, proposal in August is the cleanest, most efficient way to do it.
Thank you.
All right. Good info here. Thank you for the heads up on that one. Let's see here. Let me go over here to the agenda. Okay. Discussion and possible action regarding the time frame for a broker to remove team names. As we all discussed last meeting, we have noticed that some folks continue to leave team names up on underneath their alternate names or team names list under their broker or brokerage. Cleaning that up would make a huge difference, I believe, in enabling consumers to find where that team is actually located. And there are a lot of, it seems like, duplicate team names out there. I mean, I searched for one the other day and I found quite a few of the same type name out there. And I think this proposal, this discussion point would be great for us to have a rule in place for them to remove a team name in a certain amount of time, considering we want them to use the team name and report it in a certain amount of time. Why not remove it within a certain amount of time as well? Any thoughts or comments on that one?
So we do currently have a rule, and that's the rule included in your materials, which is it's actually the advertising rule, or one of the advertising rules, I should say, which provides that when a team name is no longer used, there's a requirement to provide notice to the commission within 10 days. So that's currently in rule. So I know that you wanted to look at that, and then part of the discussion was, whether that was sufficient, or if it was sufficient, does it need to be communicated?
And that's under the advertising piece. That is interesting because I definitely have not seen that occur.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is there a way to tie or have some place on renewals for the broker entity and also for the individual agents to certify that that team name is still in use under which brokerage?
As far as adding to the certification statement?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
We could think about that. We could think about that.
Then the question goes, how do you clean out what's already there? That may be wrong. I mean, maybe there's a outreach effort to brokers of record to have those checked by a certain date or whatever, have an audit of it.
Would that, So Leslie, what you're saying is basically like being proactive and sending out notification to all brokers in the state saying, hey, make sure you get your team names cleaned up and you need to stay on top of those, removing them within 10 days as per the advertising rule. And maybe that goes out in the bulletin as well.
Right, have some sort of distribution to go out to the brokers of record as they are now, clean that up, and then you can kind of start fresh with this renewal effort or however you want to do it.
Yeah, we could definitely communicate that requirement. And Vanessa just mentioned, that could be something, for a future broker responsibility, legal 1 and 2 article.
Right, but how do we make sure that they do it on our end? Is there a way to have something sent out by X date? You need to have this. It's kind of like an internal audit. I mean, especially with the new database.
I don't know if we know the answer to that.
Yeah,
we can look.
We can look into it.
Oh, one more comment or thought process that goes along with this as well. And I have no idea what the new system is going to be capable of. It sounds like it's going to be great when it's done. But a team name, when it's registered, there needs to be someone who's a team lead. Otherwise, it's not a team, right?
It's not a requirement in the formation of a team for advertising rules that there be a team lead, but we do say, for instance, team leads need to be delegated supervisors in our rules. So from our perspective, it's not a requirement for the creation of the team, but if there is one, there are certain requirements that come into play.
So essentially what could happen is, and this is what I'm just trying to clarify, what could happen is if a broker actually had multiple teams listed underneath his or her brokerage, those team names could essentially be supervised by that broker.
Yeah, I mean, the broker is always ultimately responsible for any teams. And they may have a structure where there are team leads in place that are delegated part of that supervision. But even under our rule, we say, regardless of delegated supervisors, the broker is still ultimately responsible. So you could have a structure like that, or it could be the broker, just the overall supervisor, not delegating at all. Either way.
Okay, so I'm going to throw this out there. How do we enforce this rule? If it says, the rule said, if I'm not incorrect, it said after not using the team name or what have you anymore. I don't remember the exact verbiage in there, but who's to say they're still using it today?
Well, so the rule language, and if you go up one page, Amber, it's in the CP4. So it says a broker must notify the commission in writing not later than the 10th day after the date the associated broker or sales agent sponsored by the broker stops using a team name. So it's ultimately a broker obligation. If they fail to do that, just like any violation of a rule, that would ultimately could lead to a complaint and ultimately some type of action being taken.
So, but who's to say they stop using it is my point.
Yeah, that would be a fact question.
So there's really no, I mean, that's an easy one to get out of, Am I wrong?
I don't know, Mike, have you ever had to deal with this particular complaint and try to demonstrate someone who has stopped using a team name or ever had that issue in a?
It's more of an educational item.
Yeah.
I mean, proving it one way or another is difficult because it doesn't necessarily say like if you just cease any kind of advertising it for an indeterminate period of time that you like inadvertently or just by just default, discontinued using it, so then you have to remove it. So the broker could just say, well, we're just not really using it right now, but I wanted to secure that name and keep it going if necessary. I mean, I'm just putting, hypothesizing, but
It's case by case.
I mean, it's really, we do it from the other end because we don't know if that's being used or not. So we're not necessarily going to ask the question. We're looking at advertisement that is not registered that we see out in the public. And that's the most proactive way that we can enforce stuff because the evidence is there. It's on, it's prima facie evidence.
I'm not asking this question as a challenge as much as just wanting to kind of understand where we're coming from on this. But have we seen, has this been a huge issue from like a consumer protection standpoint, or are you seeing big risks in this?
It really, Chelsea, it really goes back to two things. And I believe, if I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I believe that I'm speaking for all of us on this one, but it goes back to just locating where that team comes from. Sometimes there's information out there where, I mean, just the other day, I actually had a team that was advertising a listing that didn't have the proper information on it. And it was just happened to be one of our listings. So I couldn't find out where the team came from. They had no IBS, things like this. Finally figured out where they were, but it would be just so much easier. And if I could just type in the team name, easily find them. The problem is that so many of these brokers don't update the team allocation, essentially. This team had been to like 3 other brokers. And so when I called the third broker, I finally found the team. But all the other 2 brokers still have the teams still have that team listed.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And that just,
I think it all goes back to the word, sorry, Ty. I think it all goes back to the word that we hear every day, all day is transparency. We have to make sure we're transparent on everything and we're being honest.
And accurate record keeping as well as an enforcement, like as an organization that holds licenses, we need to be have accurate information out there.
Right. It just cleans it up. It's it's really important. What I was gonna kind of say and talk about is that usually people who want to start a team, they're, a lot of them are actual sales associates or license holders that are not brokers. And then they go take broker responsibility. That way they can become a supervisor and then they're the team lead. What I was gonna say was, why don't we associate the team? But I don't know if this is possible, but associate the team with that team lead or the team lead with the team. That way it's easier to figure out who's who in that mix. But like I say, this is just something that happened to me recently. And I just wanted to share my experience with it since it was already on the agenda. I kind of felt like it was kind of telling. Mike, did you have a comment, sir?
Yeah, the problem that I'm seeing with teams is that I don't think anybody is taking them off, because I have gone to look for a broker or look for a team on somebody, and I'll find a team. And, we all understand that it's supposed to end with the word team or group, but the public doesn't know that. And so you can go find, ABC team and ABC group can be in 2 different brokerages. And I can go to the Trek website and look up a broker, and they've got 10 agents, but there's 200 team names. And I'm going, how in the heck did somebody with 10 agents get 200 teams? And I see that a lot where the team name list is longer than the list of the agents sponsored by that broker. And so I don't think anybody's taking anything off. I know what the rules say, but it's already, you go into Facebook and Instagram and all these different social media platforms, and it's really hard to find who the broker is.
It is.
I know that we've got rules on that, and I can see the team name, but I've seen a lot of teams that go, oh, I never knew you worked for that broker, because it's very difficult to find out who's ultimately responsible for that stuff. So I would love to see us, if there was a way to audit it, to cut out all these old names, I'd be fully in support of that.
I don't know that there's a way to audit it, Mike, but I do think that there's a way to really push out the education and remind brokers, hey, this is your responsibility. You need to keep accurate records, update your team names, and, please get this done, within 10 days after the use of the team name or what have you. Send out the rule and really try to push that. I don't know of any other way to make that
drive Trek nuts. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think education will help. Let's just see how far we can get with that. But there are just so many team names out there. It's just nuts.
It is wild. I literally didn't know how many there were until I went looking for this one, and all kinds of things pulled up, just like what you're kind of talking about. Just my personal experience last week. Larry, did you have a comment, sir?
I did, sir. So I know when I left one brokerage, I had a team name. So I actually had to and started my own brokerage with that same team name. So, I ended up calling the other brokerage, the person that was in charge of that, and then they had to go back in there and manually remove that. And I guess here's a question. I don't even know if it's possible, but wouldn't it be great if you were going to add a team name, but if there was already another broker that had that name, that it wouldn't allow you to do that?
That's actually a great idea, Larry.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, and I don't even know if that's even possible in the system, but this way, for myself, if it would have just said to me, well, you can't add that in there because it's already being used by somebody else, right? Which it allowed me to, but then I went and called the other broker and just had them manually remove it.
So we do have some restrictions in our statute based on names used in advertising, and essentially what it says, it prohibits the agency from limiting an assumed name. A team name could be considered an assumed name or trade name if the state authorizes its use. And because this is where it gets a little confusing with state law, but because team names are under state law considered assumed business names, and the Secretary of State does not do name availability searches for an assumed business name, you can have multiple team names, multiple assumed business names that are similar, and it's authorized under state law. There can be some other issues that touches on, but we are a little bit restricted in what we can control for advertising, or the names that we can control based on that statutory provision.
Makes sense. I mean, and still ultimately it still falls back on the broker. I get that. It does fall back on us for a lot of responsibility. That's why we have a broker's license. But yeah.
All good comments. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Assumed names used to be, in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, but assumed names used to be registered more by county.
Yes.
And a long time ago, I don't know if it's still done that way, but I mean, when we first got one, it was, 30 years ago, we couldn't get it at the Secretary of State, but we could get it in the county.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been kind of a whole evolution of that, where there used to be requirement just at the county level. Then, depending on the type of assumed name, it was county or the state, the Secretary of State. And it's kind of evolved through the years about, where exactly you file that.
Yeah, I go back to what problem are we trying to solve? Is the rule broken? It just seems like the rule's not being adhered to. So I think changing the rule or changing the number of days, 10 days is probably too long. It's such an easy thing to do in the My License application, but it's more of a
education.
Are people adhering to the rule? I don't think it's a rule that needs to be fixed.
Right. I think it's just an education thing. Summer, are you in the room?
Yes.
Hey, Summer. Yeah. Is there any way in the Trek bulletin that we could add something in on this matter in there?
Absolutely. We can do that there. I mean, we can do articles. We can do, yeah. The world is our oyster on this communication.
You know what? Let's get a good oyster then, and let's see if we can get some communication and get some brokers in line. That'd be amazing. Do you think we could do that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You would be the best. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought I already was,
Nice.
but okay. I'll take it.
Well, you know what? Thank you. Thank you, Summer. Thank you. All right.
I think
so
we should still consider how to do this on an ongoing basis.
as far as
What we discussed before, of maybe on the renewals or something to have it stated.
just saying, I certify all the current team names or
Or do something, yes.
like
Let us
some type
look
of
into
certification.
that a little bit. We can bring some information back about what we might be able to do on that end.
All right. So we will let's add that to the future agenda then, I guess, and we will look at that information at our next meeting. Any other comments or anything on this? Oh, Larry, did you want to say something else on that?
Oh, I
Okay,
think Rena has a comment.
Yeah.
Rena.
So the process to update the teams right now, is it just online or do they have to fill out a form and submit for review?
It's both, but moving to online.
Okay.
There is a form.
There is a form, but it's
Not
not
really used.
very utilized because the online name management tool
Yeah.
allows for access 24/7. You don't have to send it in and wait for it to get assigned to someone to process it. So we see a rare number of the PDF forms come in.
So part of the notification to the brokers, I think, is to let them know it can be easily done online. Because that's a barrier alone for a lot of them to have to fill out a form and submit, just like it is for agents. So if it can be done online, we can say, look how quick and easy this is.
Perfect. All right. If we don't have any other comments, let's move on forward and discussion on possible action regarding future meeting topics and meeting dates. So let's talk about meeting topics for the future. Anything that jumps off the top of your head right now besides what we already have on the list?
Do we have a list? Is there a list somewhere?
The list that we have as far as everything we've talked about today, we're going to revisit.
Gotcha.
We can look at the rules and the proposed rules and things of this nature, as well as looking at the education piece for brokers and certifying that the team names are cleaned up on the.
I do have a couple things that I think that we should consider looking at. There seems to be some ambiguity of who a licensee works for in terms of brokerage and also representation when it comes to showing service companies, like the apps that you can go to and have somebody show on your behalf in regards to transaction coordinators, that may be a licensed real estate professional working for multiple brokerages, and open houses where they're listed by ABC company, but the host of the open house is with a different brokerage.
So we did
Gotcha.
have that report from the brokerage services working group on the agenda or in the materials, maybe last meeting. Okay, so that discussion, that was part of that discussion, but if there's something more specific.
Okay, I'll go back and reread. I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine.
From my experience on those types of issues, because we're pretty extensive with our policies and procedures. I think those types of issues are addressed in policies and procedures within each brokerage. And it's a variety of how it can be handled.
I agree with that. There's also the challenge of compensation not going through the broker, that real estate professionals are accepting it directly.
On the showing services.
I think in all three of those examples, that would be an accurate statement.
Gotcha. Well, I think we've had that discussion in the past on the showing service, for sure. And it is an interesting topic for sure. Transaction coordinators. I know, Marvin, you were in on that, weren't you? On the
Yes.
transaction coordinators.
I was, and
yeah,
Summer's piece that she put together on this was very clear, and I think addressed it very well. Now, I think the issue is, are our licensees reading it, and do they understand it? But it was a great piece.
I think the other issue of open houses, I'm with you on that one. That's a very good topic, especially with liability being a potential problem. All kinds of different things that you open yourself up to when you allow a different brokerage into one of your listings to do an open house and or host those things. A lot of insurance issues, things of that nature, but I do agree. I believe that is handled on a policies and procedures basis. I don't know that it's anything we can do here on that one. Any other comments or anything else? We wrap up the meeting today as far as that goes. We can talk about meeting dates. All right.
If anything comes up in the interim, you can send it to Abby.
Perfect. That sounds really good.
Yeah. No, but she can coordinate with it getting on the agenda.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. Now let's talk about meeting dates here. Any issues on meeting dates in the future for anyone? Are we looking fine here?
July 16th and October 15th.
Mm-hmm. Are we good on those? Anybody have any issues, or do we need to move those around?
Like thumbs up.
Perfect. I think we'll stick with those dates. I think that works out wonderfully.
July 16th?
July 16th.
Okay. And October
15th. And with those dates in the books right now, and a great meeting to be had today, give yourselves a round of applause, a pat on the back, and a high five. We had a great meeting today, and I want to say thank you, and this meeting is officially adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great week.
Bye-bye.